Here we are again, the latest and greatest Inside LAFC podcast. Great that you could join us. I am Max Bretos. Stephen Beitashour joins us. How you doing, Beta?
I'm doing well. Thanks. I'm doing well. It's good to see you as always, Max.
I'm very excited to have you because there's a lot of connection points to what we're going to be talking about. And we always like to remind you to rate, review, download, subscribe, tell a friend. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. Do what is required. What is required. Great. Inside LAFC podcast is going from strength to strength. Very special guests we'll talk to later in the show. Nathan Ordaz, who has been, working multiple shifts for the LAFC first team, for LAFC 2. We'll probably see him at the Open Cup as well, playing against his former team, the Las Vegas Lights. So we'll get his thoughts on all those topics. And Beta, we'll talk a little Open Cup. We're going to talk about San Jose, your old stomping grounds. But we're coming off where an LAFC performance where they it was getting a little hot under the collar because it was a game where LAFC had it up 2 goals, maybe their best half of the season. I wonder what you would think about that. And then bit by bit, the Timbers get in. It's 2-2, and then people are thinking, "There's no way you're gonna." Yeah, we'll stay unbeaten at home, but there's no way this is not going to be 3 points. And then Denis Bouanga able to tuck it away. First thoughts on that early start from LAFC, because we're seeing some improvement. We know this is a club in transition, but we saw, Denis Bouanga was so good in that first half, had the goal disallowed, that they had to replace their right back at one point. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I felt bad for Mascara just because Bouanga was having a field day in the first half. I think I agree with you. That might have been LAC's best half. So many chances created, possession. Obviously, his goal that got called back for handball on Tillman, which I'm not fully convinced because it wasn't really out. It was by his side, natural position. Anyways, he had a great first half where you mentioned it. They had to sub out the right back and bring in Eric Miller. But a tale of two halves, right? Like second half at home, I think they let off the gas a little bit and
do it.
Out of nothing, really, Portland gets back into it, 2 goals, and then all of a sudden momentum switched. So it's kind of strange.
The handball, once I heard they were looking at it, I knew they were going to reverse it. So I didn't have a huge problem, but I understand that. I don't want to upset our supporter base, but when they were talking about it, I go, this goal's not going to count, which is going to be a real problem.
Yeah.
I spoke to Steve Chernow before the game, and he was very upfront about what LAFC is trying to do. And he mentioned we are improving in our football, our passes, and our control in the buildup. We want to see transition in what the team is. And in the long haul, we'll make mistakes, and it's a long way, but we're looking towards to get to our goals. And this is, I believe, the transition to how LAFC was when you were part of it. Showtime football, lots of possession, getting after it. This is going to be a counterpunch team, a transitional team that can get in that buildup and get behind defenses. Now that we have that information, when you see this team and what they are trying to accomplish, that's a big ordeal, to have to do that. And not only that, but progressing at it, we're going to see some hiccups.
Yeah, no, for sure. Anytime you play that way, again, when you have the ball, you're in possession, you're confident, you're exposing yourself a bit by spreading out in different positions, and you leave yourself a little bit vulnerable. We talked about it in the past. But, again, going back to this first half against Portland, I thought LAFC did a great job of being confident, playing in between the lines. And, obviously Bouanga had the goal that called back. Fantastic goal. Great ball. I believe it was from Tillman. But then he causes the first goal, the own goal against Miller for Portland. It's a great ball in behind. He runs off the shoulder, off the edge, in behind Mascara, who again had a rough first half going against Bouanga, plays a perfect ball in behind the back line in between Crepeau. And what does it do for center backs? Nightmare of a position. Either you touch it and it probably will go in, or you let it go and someone else on LAC, I think was Oliveira, is going to tap it in. It's a tough spot. And then the second goal by Tillman, again, class, the ball cut back to hit that first time off the post and in. So really good first half. I think that's what you saw Chernow talking about, what we wanted. But then, I mentioned it earlier, the second half, man, you're doing so many right things in that first half. Keep doing that. This is about being exciting, right? You want to score multiple goals. You want to put your foot on their throat. You have them down, put your foot on their throat, end the game. But you let them back in. And if it weren't for a silly mistake by Chara, shocking, guy gets 2 yellows, and now you're playing a man down. And then now it's flipped. LAFC gets the advantage again.
Did you hear Phil Neville after the game said about the Diego Chara red card? He goes, "That's a very MLS thing to do." I go, "Wait a minute." To give him a red card on his 377th game. I go, I don't care if he broke all records that were possibly on offer. I mean, if it's a red, it's a red.
Look, the guy leads the league in yellow cards. Okay, so we can't argue that he didn't deserve another yellow card. But I've been there. I've seen it a million times with other players. He tried to dribble a Tuesta. He got picked, middle of the field. And instantly, as a former player, I've been there. You just see red. You're just like, foul him or get the ball back or do whatever to end this counter because you don't want to be responsible for a goal, right? Unfortunately, when that happens, you don't think, am I on a yellow or not? You're just thinking, end the play. And he did it. He clipped him. He kind of tugged him, and then he bumped into him. Take your pick. Because it was a transitional play, it's a second yellow. Sorry.
Yeah. And LAFC were much better against this 10-man Portland. Not only they got the game winner, but they had a lot of chances as opposed to when they were up a man with Maxime Crépeau for that second half. And I felt bad because I love Diego Chara. He's a great ambassador to this league, and I would have liked for a better turnout. But horses for courses. We move on. Were you surprised because the Timbers score a lot of goals and they've been aggressive? Were you surprised that they kind of came out 4-4-2, kind of mid to lower block, and that allowed LAFC to get a lot of possession?
Yes and no. I don't know with their style that they want to play on the road, but even at home, I remember they went a man down, and they didn't really force the issue. It was kind of a stalemate compared to, I think it was New York we were talking about. They went a man down at home, and they were still pushing the issue. So I kind of did expect them, even though with 11 players, to be on the road and not force the issue, just based off of how they played at home when they were a man down. You can either go for it or you can be a little bit more, conservative, sit back a little bit. So I kind of was expecting that, if I'm being honest. But I think they realized real quick how good LAFC could be if you do that. And their game plan changed a little bit in the second half until the unfortunate red card for them.
They were getting things going. And then the second half, 2-2, everyone's like, oh, man. Yeah. This is going to be a bummer. I mean, and then Denis Bouanga with this. There was a lot of corner kicks. Tuesta lays one in. Kai Kamara heads it, and then Bouanga just grabs a chance. It's the second straight game he hits a stoppage time goal, this one to win the game. I think there's still a lot of work for Denis Bouanga to do. But we're seeing, the goals starting to come around for him, and he's now residing amongst the leaders in that category.
Yeah, I think we spoke about that in weeks past. Look, he's getting the chances. That's all you really want. Sooner or later, these goals are going to start going in. And sure enough, this was an unreal goal. I don't think people realize how difficult this goal is to open up your hips, to hit it first time. You can sky it. You can shank it way right and go out for a throw-in to perfectly finesse it. And the best one I can give you as an example is Thierry Henry. To perfectly open up your hips, get around the ball, put it top corner like that, it's so difficult. I just want people to just try it 100 times, and I promise you, you'll miss 100 times. He's class, and that was a class goal. It was really, really fun to watch.
After the podcast, go out to your backyard or your street and try it. See if you can do it. It's a lot of players in between him, but that's the kind of finishing because he's number 2 in expected goals. Didn't have the goals to back it up. He's hit the post or the woodwork so many times. He hit the post there too. It was this beautiful sound. It was boop boop, and so he hits the post. So he's finding those corners, but that finishing, that's the kind of what we looked at. We saw from a year ago where he was the Golden Boot.
Yeah, and I think you might have mentioned it. He leads the league in post hit, correct?
Yes.
And
I think he's at 7 or 8 now.
It was this far away from hitting the post and not go in as well. So I think now maybe the tides have turned. Instead of hitting the post and going out, now they're going to be hitting the post and going in. You're going to see him a goal a game now. It's going to be, they're going to come in bunches now.
Wow, that's exciting. There's the leaderboard in MLS goal scoring is so good. You have Messi up there, you have Benteke, you have Chicho Arango, you have Luis Suarez, and now that's a great one of the better leaderboards we've seen. Well, hopefully Bouanga can stick around. Yeah. LAFC unbeaten at home. That's 4-0-2. That carries some weight. You would like is that something you think about? Obviously, you want to have this something etched so that you can come back home and protect.
Yeah, for sure. It's not a shock that LAFC has such a good home record. They have, one of the best, I think the best home crowds in the 32-52. And, every time they come out, anytime the players come out, it gives you that extra bit that you feel like you're playing a man up because they're always behind you, regardless if you're behind in the game, whether it's even or you're up. They're always singing. They're always chanting. You give up a goal and they're still chanting like, didn't even happen. We still got you back. So as a player, a former player, like there was no better feeling than that. And so it doesn't surprise me that they have such a good home record. Now let's flip that and get something on the road.
Yeah. How did you feel like when you were coming out, knowing you were playing at home back in the day, when you knew you had the supporters? I mean, you had your chest puffed out and you said, we're protecting this place.
Yeah. Every game it's weird. As a player, you're just hoping that you have all this energy, endless energy, right? At home, when you're coming out in front of the 32-52, that's what you felt like. You're like, I don't even know if I had my coffee or whatever. It didn't matter. They're giving me that energy, that caffeine that I need to go up and down and fly up and down the flanks and, for whatever positions, forwards, midfielders to bust tackles and this and that. So for me, that was the extra energy that, that extra shot of espresso that you needed. It was great.
Are you a double espresso, single? What is it?
I was I think they call it a red eye. It was coffee with the espresso shot in there.
Me too.
Yeah.
The coffee budget's gone through the roof with Giorgio Chiellini. They have this new coffee thing at the Performance Center, and it gets a lot of usage. Mark Dos Santos is another one who puts them down.
I'm surprised because when I was there, it was the most state-of-the-art coffee machine I've seen of all my past
They've
games.
upgraded it.
Okay, I need to stop by and check this out because I do like the espresso.
But get there early because the steamed milk runs out. Because I'll get a coffee there maybe the one time a week, and I'll do it like at 2 a.m. and there's no steamed milk because those guys took it all.
Are you blaming someone? I think it's you that's using it all.
I don't get it. I don't get the steamed milk. Anyway,
who did this again? Meanwhile, your cup is full, enjoying it. Yeah, all right.
I want my red eye.
I'll see you, Max.
So you were mentioning about getting on the road, and this is priority one, and LAFC have not got a win this season. They're going to get some of that support, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as they take the short trip to San Jose. And this is a good spot. San Jose is not playing well, however. They got a nice point against Nashville. Prior to that, they were down to the Galaxy 4-1 and made it a close game. But so something positive there. They had this news of a record signing in the week. So San Jose's having a nice little stretch. And this is going to be at Levi Stadium, 70,000 seat stadium there in Santa Clara, which they did last year as part of a Cinco de Mayo weekend. And San Jose won it, I think, 83rd minute goal by Christian Espinoza. So this is a big fixture for them because of the weekend, because of the NFL park. And this is a win. If they could beat LAFC, who's coming in with some momentum, it can kickstart their season. LAFC is not when you need to get something, and in this case, a road win. The focus, because this season can't really gain traction unless you get it. How do you adjust when you haven't been able to get that result prior?
Yeah, so similar to what I mentioned about Denis Bouanga, just needing to see that ball go in the net, and then they're going to start rolling, right? LAFC is the same way with this first road win.
If they get the first, they'll get more.
Just need to get the first one. Get the monkey off your back. All right, the pressure's off. We got it. Everybody stop talking about it, you and I and everybody else. And then they're going to start rolling. It's just that first one is always the toughest to get. And you would like to think, against San Jose, a team that before this last tie against Nashville, which is a good draw, they lost 4 in a row before that, so they're struggling a bit. But you mentioned it. They're playing at Levi Stadium. Anytime you play at these big stadiums, anything can happen. It's a free-for-all, ton of people. It's the Cinco de Mayo game. It's the LA, NorCal, SoCal clash. Like, it's a big game for everybody. So it's not going to be easy. I don't care how many games they lost in a row or only have 1 point out of 15 possible in their last 5. None of that matters. I don't care LAFC hasn't won yet on the road. None of that matters when you play in these big stadiums and these big crowds. Obviously, LAFC is going to travel well. They're going to have a ton of fans for, Cinco de Mayo. Everyone's going to come out. And so it's going to be a good matchup. It's going to be a tough one.
LAFC's playing better away. They got a point in Portland. They should have got something against Colorado. We talked about that. After some poor results earlier in the season, it seems like they are poised. And this is a spot. I think the last 5 games up in NorCal, San Jose's won. I mean, that's a big departure than what you played. But for some reason, the Earthquakes, that wasn't the case at the beginning of this rivalry, but they kind of have LAFC's number. So this would be a huge result for them if they can get everything right. And I agree with you. They can get that road win under their belts. That's going to alleviate it because it has to be getting in their heads a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I don't know what's happened as of late with LAFC because the first 2 years, 18-19, when I was with LAFC, we loved going to San Jose. I think we went there 4 times and got 4 wins. So we loved that trip. And the 32-52 came out in waves. It was amazing. They're still coming out. The 32-52 are doing their part, but I don't know what's going on with LAFC because now you mentioned it. San Jose's kind of got the numbers as of late. So hopefully they can turn it again and get the momentum back on their side.
Those road trips for San Jose, that's a bit of an anticlimax. You finish the game, you get on the plane, and then you're back home in like 30 minutes. You don't get to hang out. You don't get a good card game going or anything.
Well, is that post-COVID? Because I felt pre-COVID we did stay the night, and we were staying in. I don't want to give away where they're staying, but we stayed in a nice area. And after a good victory, some of the guys go out and enjoy the night on the town. And
yeah,
I think maybe now post-COVID they might just go back right away.
Yeah, they get charters. They'll come back. They'll come right back. You don't want to mosey around. Maybe they'll make an exception here or there, but it is what it is. But maybe in the big picture, they could just stick you on a bus back in the day and just come down to 5, settle back in.
Yeah, I've done that drive plenty. Born and raised in San Jose, went to school in San Diego State, so I did that drive on 5 multiple times. So not the best drive. You can go the scenic route. You can go take 101, go the scenic route, but 5, if you want to cut some hours off.
Listen, man, and I grew up in Florida. There's no worse drive. There's nothing to see. Here you get a little coastline, you get little mountains, get some farmland. It's nice. It's a nice drive.
Yeah,
so
it's just farmland, a couple cows, and that's it.
A lot of places to stop. A lot of, as you would know.
Yeah.
That's right. Growing up in San Jose, this is obviously a big fixture for you. And we're going to go now into Black and Gold Rewind. And we're going to look back to June the 9th, 2018, when San Jose hosted LAFC. This was at PayPal Park, whatever it was called back then. Yeah. And there was a lot of things at play. This was an incredible game, Beta. You were all over it. This was the João Moutinho, who was the number 1 pick in 2018. He's now playing at Spezia in Italy. So he's enjoying his career. He scored the game winner at the end at 4-3. But you had a pretty influential game as well.
Yeah, anytime I can play in San Jose, whether it's for them or against them, I tend to enjoy myself just because I have so many friends and family there, relatives, people from high school, middle school, like everyone just comes out to support, which is really fun. And so I think that was the first game, with LAFC going to play against San Jose. So, it was a lot of fun. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was called the Via back then.
Avaya, correct.
The Via? I think it was the Via. And so it was fun. It was an exciting game. I remember a lot of goals. I did have one, which I didn't celebrate. I put my hands up.
Because that's your hometown. You were being respectful.
It's where I got drafted, played my first few years in professional MLS and professional soccer. And so I played for them. I'm from there. look, I'm not trying to get anybody upset. So I went the political route. I'm not celebrating. You guys can hug me, but I'm not celebrating. And so it was fun. And I think I had the game tying assist as well to Walker to Dio, which I might have celebrated that one. I might have celebrated that one because it was the 90th minute, you know.
Someone else's goal.
And it was someone else's goal. Yeah, I can celebrate someone else's goal, not my own.
That was crazy too, because Chris Wondolowski scored 2 goals. He was going to be the story, and everyone's celebrating him because he I don't know if this was near the end of his career. He wasn't scoring as many goals. He just got passed by Diego Chara for most games for one player for a team. That's who Chara passed to make that record, Chris Wondolowski. So it was happening there. It was cruising along. It was 3-1, and then the goal Dio that made it. That would make it 3-2, and then the one you assisted on in the 90th minute, and then João Moutinho in the 97th, and there was a red card a minute later. That must have been a fun. Did you guys spend the night there? That must have been a nice ride back or a nice flight back.
We did. So now that I know the guys aren't staying there, we stayed in Santana Row, beautiful area. And afterwards, it was a fun night because it was so exciting. Just what happened in that game. You know, you go down, you go up, you go down, you tie it. And then, you know, that game in particular, I remember all week, I'm telling the guys, you know, I know Wanda was kind of at the end of his career, but still, do not give this guy an ounce of space. That's all he needs. He will finish it. He won't take a touch. He'll just tap it in. Don't give him an ounce of space. And what do? We give him more than an ounce of space. And it was frustrating when we kept conceding. I'm going to say silly mistakes because I know I want to say 2 goals for sure. Tyler Miller was trying to dribble out on Wando and just gives him a goal. I'm just like, guys, all week I've been warning you about this guy. Now we're handing him goals. Were
you that kind of guy? Were you that kind of guy? I go, hey, I told you a dozen times.
During meetings, I'm saying, guys, okay, like, you know, this is your whole team. You played with these guys. This is who we need to watch out for. This is kind of what we need to try to do. And then the game starts, and then you're making silly mistakes that we talked about not doing. So it's frustrating. But I do remember in the 90th minute, I get the assist. I send it to Walker. Walker one touch to Dio. So they technically give me a second assist. Thank you. I'll take that. But I remember when we're huddling and celebrating, guys, okay, close the game out. We're on the road. We just tied it in the 90th minute. We'll take the point. And Benny fell longer. F that, Beta. F that. We're winning this. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you're crazy. And then he convinced me. He's like, I was like, all right. And we start pushing. They get a red card, like, I don't know, maybe right after that. And I'm like, man, we might win this. And sure enough, 96th minute, you know, who was it? Latif Blessing cuts it back, and Moutinho. It might have hit off someone, but it was on target, so it wasn't an own goal, and won it. And I'm just looking at Benny, and he's like, I told you. It was fun. We were excited.
Benny was at the Red Bulls game out here a couple of weeks ago, so it was nice to see everyone got to say hello to him. It was a nice warm moment, so there you have it.
I love
that. Look, this is it. To look back at the history here is and when we do this, and I'm looking for stuff to look back, there's no shortage of it, Beta, and you're all over the place. I mean, you and Harvey are all over the place, so it works out pretty well. I did want to talk about something that happened that we saw in 2018, then again in 2019 on the first visit to San Jose, and that was the traveling supporters, because we've seen some indicators. Traveling support has gone so big in MLS, but it used to be 10 guys, 15. It used to be nobody, right? It used to be no one.
Yeah.
And then it was like 5, maybe like a family would go, and now it's this huge thing. And there was this video. I remember Rich Orozco who was filming it. He said it was like The Walking Dead, because it was like a faraway image. You see everyone in black walking towards the stadium, and it was like 1,000 people or more, and it looked like a zombie invasion. Do you remember that? I mean, do you remember that impression? That had to blow you away. And then there's 2019 where there's an image where they're at PayPal or Avaya, and they're in the corner, and the whole stadium is just out of control.
I remember both like it was yesterday. The first one, there were so many of them, but it was kind of dark. And so you obviously knew there was a lot of them. But I remember my parents and my siblings were telling them how amazing the 3252 were because they sat with them, but they were wearing, I believe, their San Jose Beitashour jerseys, right? And so they're like, "Oh, you can't wear that." And then people said, "No, that's Beta's parents." And then from there, they loved. They took care of my parents. They got them drinks. They were like, "Oh, you guys are part of us." And then they loved it. They were chanting with them. When we scored, they would do the beer showers. Like, there was so much fun. We loved it. And then 2019 was, I'll never forget, looking up and thinking the bleachers were going to just collapse. They were doing Jump for LA Football Club. And I'm watching this thing just like bounce up and down in slow motion. I'm like, that's awesome. It looks really cool. But, oh, my God, this is about to be bad. So
and that's a small stadium. That's like 17,000 seats. So if you get 2,000 whatever away supporters, you're going to notice it.
And I'm pretty sure our away supporters were, 2, 3, maybe 4 times more than the amount of the Earthquake supporters at the time. They were going through a little tough spell. I remember we had a little inner clash with their supporters groups, their ultras. And so, it felt like you were at a home game. It really did. And that was also a game where we won 4 or 5-0. So it just shows you how influential, home or away, your fans are to you.
I just hope it keeps going, because you remember back in the day, the early days of MLS, you didn't expect to look up at the stands and see traveling supporters. It just didn't happen.
No, I honestly think besides the big rivalry match of like Seattle-Portland or Toronto-Montreal, where it's so close that they don't have to fly, they just bus. Other than that, it didn't happen. Now you see it more and more, and it's really cool. Yeah, I love it.
It's great. Yeah, it's great. And look, but they're spending their hard-earned money. They're putting in their time to support their club because they love it. Yeah. And it's something to be admired. And by the way, they're having a blast. As you said, your parents love it. I've been on the road with these guys, and it's so much fun. You generally don't pay for a drink, which is not right, but I'm not going to turn them down on that. So, it is.
They treat you well. That's one thing you can say with every sports group. They treat you well.
Yeah, if you haven't done it, get out there, make arrangements. You'll really appreciate it. Pick a city you haven't been to or a stadium you want to see. Get out and do it. Well, I feel good about the chances here. It's going to be tough, but I think LAFC are in a good position to get that. I do want to just touch briefly on the U.S. Open Cup. LAFC drew the Las Vegas Lights away. I think everyone's excited they get to go to Vegas. There's a lot of guys in this team who've never seen Vegas, and I'm sure seeing it, cross it off the list. It'll be very interesting. But I want to talk about the Open Cup. And I know LAFC is going to take it seriously. I think they're one of 7 MLS teams in this competition. In case you weren't aware, this is a tournament-style format. And you win 4 or 5. You win 4 games, you make a final. And LAFC has never won this trophy. It's a chance to do it. They came very close in 2018 when you were with the team making a semifinal. I think we talked about that on Black and Gold Rewind. But because MLS is kind of pivoting away, they put a lot of next pro teams in there. And again, LAFC are one of just a few MLS teams that are in this field, which makes them one of the favorites. They'll have a good shot at it. Yeah. And, this is a tournament going through transition. MLS has got a lot on its plate with the Leagues Cup, and we get all that. But I know this is very important to players. When you thought about these Open Cup campaigns, how did you approach it?
Honestly, I loved it. Anytime you get a chance to step on the field and compete and play, I wanted to win. And I'm really proud and happy that LAFC decided that they're going to put their team out there. And I don't know what happened this offseason that so many MLS teams are like, no, it's just our second team that's going to play in it. This is the oldest tournament in U.S. soccer. Like, you should be proud of this. And everybody knows in the first couple rounds, you're playing your young kids anyway. You're not playing your first team starters. You're playing the guys who don't get a lot of minutes, or maybe some of your reserves, maybe some players that you need to give a little experience to. Everybody knows that. And so it's like, well, why don't you just keep doing that? It's practically your second team. And then if you win and you continue to do well, now you get to the quarters, semis, now you put your first team guys in. Just do that. And that's what LAFC is going to do. And so it was a little frustrating for me to see all of these teams back out and be like, no, we're not doing it. Our, whatever two is going to.
Yeah, well, it was from the league too, and the league's looking at this, and this will look very different in 2025.
Yeah.
I get the feeling if LAFC could go on a run, if they could win this thing, maybe they could put some clout back in it. And look, I'd love to do it. I understand there's a huge fixture congestion. LAFC's not facing it because they're not in the Champions Cup. If you win the Open Cup, you get back in the Champions Cup.
Yeah.
We hope LAFC is in that, and there will be a congested schedule. But they don't have a congested schedule, so this is something where it's a bit of a refresher. So it's good. But I think if they have a good campaign, maybe they look at it a little differently for 2025.
Yeah, and look, they could put whoever they want in these first couple rounds. For me, you just prioritize. It doesn't matter how many tournaments you're in. Obviously, the more you're in, the better you're doing, right? You should be proud of that. But in the early stages, you kind of expect, whether it's your first team guys or whether it's your second guys, reserves, your young kids, you expect to win that game in advance, right? And as you get later on into the rounds, then you can prioritize. All right, look, you know what? We're going to X, Y, or Z this coming weekend. It's going to be on the road. It's going to be a tough game. We're going to flip it. Now we're in the semis of Open Cup. This is where our starters will play, and then we're going to concede. We're just going to take the L. If we could somehow get a draw, fantastic. But the young boys are going to play the MLS game, and we're going to focus on this. So you just have to prioritize. This is what European football, MLS, it doesn't matter. South America, it doesn't matter. This is what everybody does. It's part of it. It's part of managing. And so I really am glad that LAFC is playing this game. Again, I don't expect LAFC's first team guys, team that you saw start against Portland. I don't expect them to play against the Vegas Lights, but there might be a sprinkle here and there. Just
there will.
Experience,
Yeah.
And then the rounds go on, and then you can, our guys are playing now. The starters are playing.
You got it figured out, Beta. Good stuff. And like you said, it's like
I've played enough in these games that I know how it works. As a young kid, you're playing in all of them. And then once you get later on, they're like, okay, young kid, you're not playing. And then once you get older, you don't play in any of the first round. And then you get towards the end, like, all right, vets, you're in.
Thanks, guys. I'll take it from here.
Yeah. That's how it is.
What a jerk move. We got it from here.
It doesn't matter where you are. Look, it's a circle of life. This is, you either start here and get there, or, you just know that's how it works. And you're okay with it.
And they regionalize it, so LAFC is not going to go across country. They'll play Las Vegas. If they win this, they'll maybe play someone in California. They may get a home game. We'll see. There's 32 teams. They beat Las Vegas. They'll be in the final 16. So we're getting the close of it. It's like the NCAA tournament. Survive and advance.
And it's another chance at Champions League. So maybe everything I said is wrong, and because there are only a few MLS teams in it this time, maybe they're like, you know what? Let's just go for it because we have better odds because we're one of 7 or 8 MLS teams, and let's just get into Champions League. So we'll see.
Their odds are definitely amplified. So we'll see. Yeah. We will see indeed. Beta, always good to chat with you, man. Good intel. And we'll revisit all of these ideas, hopefully with an away win in the back pocket of LAFC. And we will be back on Inside LAFC podcast. Winger, attacker, for the black and gold for so many levels through the academy. Nathan Ordaz will talk to us about his LAFC experience and what he's expecting to do, not only for the first team, but for a variety of teams here in the next few weeks. We'll be back. Inside LAFC podcast is presented by Freeway Insurance, driving savings. We are back here on Inside LAFC podcast, a pod that was an absolute hit a year ago when we got Nathan Ordaz. Couldn't wait to get him back. And Nate, we have a lot of ground to cover because things have changed for you pretty significantly. You are now locked in as a first team member, and you're also balancing that with this new LAFC too. So how do you feel 1 year older, 1 year wiser with the club?
I feel good. I feel more at home, more comfortable, and, just trying to break through even more.
When you think of the work that you have done to kind of get you to that comfort level, what are some of the things that you have been able to benefit from with this club? And not to, sweep this under the rug, but getting into some playoff games as well. So when you look at what you were able to do, let's start with that playoff game in particular, to be able to get that and check it off your list, something that I've been able to accomplish as a professional. How are those moments with this club been able to shape you to prepare for this season?
It gives me confidence because it shows that the staff has confidence in me to put me in a big moment like a playoff game. And, it just makes me feel more comfortable in a regular season game or, just in any form of a game when it's such a big magnitude like the playoff games were.
How are those conversations like? I mean, do you remember? Go, hey, we're really leaning into you. We're going to need something from you so we can get to our target.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's more conversations, it's just kind of actions and just, showing it with what by putting me in and just expecting good things from me. But, I'm just trying not to disappoint and trying to keep it up and be even better.
Excellent. So, going from one year to the next, a lot of changes with the club. When you see that there's opportunities for you to grab hold of, who has been able to help you along with that journey to build your resume here as a player?
I think everybody. I think it all starts in the practice field, though. Against the defenders and everybody. If you're not playing good enough, then it doesn't matter what you really do off of it. So I think that's the most important part, to be playing good on the field, and opportunities will come through that.
Let's talk a little bit about LAFC too. It's a lot different, right? Because last year it was year one, and it was a place where the young players were getting a chance. Now we're seeing a lot of the first teamers getting to use that. You guys are off to a winning start. How many you got? We got 2 or 3 goals down there already, correct?
Yeah, 2 goals, 1 assist. Yeah.
2 goals, 1 assist. We could call it 3. I'm sure it's going to be 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's different for you? How do you, when you go into those games, what is different for you as you approach this in a much more different format for that LAFC 2 squad?
You obviously take it just as serious, but you almost know that you have to do really good, as it's not the first team, so you have to prove yourself in that as well. So it's not something you take lightly, and you have to just improve and use it as practice for when you do get a chance with the first team.
What are the challenges when you're with the first team, say on a Saturday, and then you wake up Sunday morning and you got to get ready for a game? I mean, I know you guys play a lot, but that's pretty unique. First team, sometimes travel, and then get ready to play from the jump with LAFC 2. What is on your checklist to do on those Sundays?
I mean, I just kind of I don't really know. I just kind of go with the flow, I guess, when it comes to that. There's nothing much more you can do because it's not always confirmed if you are going to be with the second team or not. So it's more last minute. So you just kind of have to be agile with the schedule.
So sometimes you're like, hey, you're in, you're going to start, and you're like, okay, I'll be ready. You could have been traveling, say, I'm trying to think of one of the visits. Say you were in Salt Lake, and then you're like, all right, get ready. You're going to be playing there Sunday. You just got to be ready.
Exactly, yeah.
How is your body holding up? You're young. You can handle those things, but just to be ready to play at any time. I just say this because as I get older, I can't do that anymore, Nate. You certainly can.
Yeah. No, I mean, the body's good right now. Just got to make sure I keep it that good for as long as possible. So, yeah.
And Junior is the coach. What has he been able to instill in you and learn? What have you been able to learn?
I mean, I think he's instilling the exact same thing that the first team is. I think that's the moral of the MLS Next Pro to, provide a step up and kind of the same picture as the first team would be. So I think he's just, doing a good replication of that.
And that's like pivotal. And that's been instilled in you, even with some of the academy days, that LAFC has got to look the same from the first team all the way down.
Yes.
So, any goals for LAFC 2? Obviously, you guys want to win. This is a year you want to win. You want to do better, and it helps you stat-wise. Obviously, if you can score at a regular clip, that means better for Nate Ordaz on the senior level.
Yes. I think we're trying to win it all. It's LAFC at the end of the day, whether it's the second team or not. I think everybody wants to win it all, and last year didn't go as fully to plan. But I think everybody is just excited to keep winning and set the tone.
Have you caught yourself where you're like a senior player and you're providing advice for some of the kids? They have to look at you and say, Nate's gone through it. He's handled it well. What advice can he give to me? Do you see yourself mentoring a little bit more?
A tad bit, yeah. Maybe with Bajoun. he's probably the one that I talk to the most, and I try to give the most advice to, because I guess we're semi-close. So yeah, he's a good kid.
Has he asked you any hard questions where you've had to kind of buckle up and say, "This is how you do it, man. If you want to be taken seriously, if you want to take that next step, this is what you got to do."
I think no. I think I might just be an old head now, because he's not asking. I'm just saying it. I'm just giving the tips without him asking.
Have you noticed that where you feel like, hey, I'm a different? I mean, I was a kid. I was 14. I was 15. I was coming through. I feel like, I know a lot. I feel like I have a good foundation.
I think, yeah, when you're trying to build up to from the second team to first team, and that, I think I have a relatively good idea of what it could be like mentally and also physically, and how you just have to show up day in, day out, and just be positive with it and have goals.
So we got LAFC, you got LAFC 2. We have Open Cup coming up on Wednesday in Las Vegas. Taking you back to those Las Vegas days, those were tough. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? I know it was a lot of time, tough but rewarding, where you're in the bus, some weird hours. Can you remember about how challenging that was for you, but rewarding as well?
Yeah, I mean, those bus rides were crazy to Vegas every single weekend, but it kind of just made you grow some callus and just appreciate the first team level and everything.
That's a good way to put it. I think maybe a lot of coaches would say, look at this. We got the heavy hitters. Oh my God. How's he doing, Paul? No, get back in here. How's he doing?
He's doing good. Come on. Well,
this is my guy right here.
Eric, I'm not going to use all the material because you're going to be on here pretty soon, but what's different about him? I mean, he looks mature. He sounds mature.
Yes, I think
kind of like they are. You think? We've had them for 5 seasons now.
It's about time, right?
Since they were like 12 years old, both of them.
They're still kids. Come on, Paul.
They are.
Well, thanks for that. We're not paying you for these appearances, by the way. What's it like to have those? I mean, what's it, Eric there and a lot of guys, and we've spoken to Diego, kind of guys are coming through as a support system. How important has that been for you?
I think it's just comfortability, I think, which helps a lot with confidence, just knowing somebody for quite a while, and I think being comfortable with them and just almost having the same journey.
Good. Comfortable is a bit, because we don't want to be too comfortable, right? Because you mentioned I want to get back. I want to get back to the calluses, which was a great analogy. When you experience that, or do you yearn for that? I go, I need to get out of my comfort zone. I need those moments. And how do you gravitate towards those?
I don't think anybody likes to be out of their comfort zone, like off rip. But once you're there, you don't have a choice, and you kind of have to just, make the best of it, I feel. So I think that's what I'm trying to do, or that's what I tried to do in that scenario. But
it certainly feels like those moments go into the body of work.
Yes, of course, yeah. And then you're tougher, and you're more used to it and more calm in these scenarios.
Are you excited to be going to Las Vegas, or are you going to kind of freak out a little bit because you're going to think of those bus rides?
I hope it's not a bus ride. So as long as it's not a bus ride, we're good.
I can't. I'm sure it won't be. I'm sure it won't be. And it's great to see that growth. But this is a U.S. Open Cup game. Another thing that I'm sure, I don't know if it provided calluses, but a great experience. That Monterey Bay game a year ago. And that was like a big breakthrough moment for you and a lot of the young players. Take me back to that moment and what it meant to play an important game for the club.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big game for not only the club, but just for all the young guys, and luckily I think I did really well, and that honestly helped me push me to where I am right now, and more set in stone with the first team roster, at least being in the roster and on the bench. And so, yeah, it's important to take your opportunities, and Vegas will just be another one of those.
Do you remember anything about what the guys told you about, hey man, this is important. You guys got us through the next round. That is a job well done. Do you remember anything what was said to you upon returning back to LAFC?
Yeah, I remember a couple of jokes being made, about it. But yeah, they're all happy that we won for sure.
Now you get your new campaign, so that you have that under your belt. and you get to a new Open Cup tournament in a familiar place. I'm sure you'd want to play. We don't know what it's going to look like. We have a game against the Earthquakes, but when you look at this new Open Cup, not a lot of MLS teams in there. Do you feel there's a good opportunity for you and this club to do something important, a tournament that LAFC hasn't won?
Yeah, I think we're always trying to win whatever we're in. And I think not being in Champions League this season will make us push for every single trophy even more, because, we played a crazy amount of games last season. So there was a lot of traveling, a lot of dirty work with that. So maybe the Open Cup was a little bit more on the back foot, but we have everything to play for when it comes to the Open Cup this year, and I think we're trying to win everything.
Yeah, it's a great time to do it. I think it would be. We know John Thornton's won it as a player, and I know that's important to him, and certainly to Steve Cherundolo. So, what are we doing for fun these days, Nate? I know you can't be doing any dirt biking, but
what am I doing for fun? Off season, I'm snowboarding, but during the season, I'm just playing video games, training, more of a routine, just keeping it routine, hanging out with friends.
Good man. And family's good. They got to be thrilled to see how Nate's been coming along.
Yeah, they are. They're supporting it, and it's great.
Oh, by the way, I was meaning to ask you this. Let's talk a little about El Salvador, playing for the senior team, which you were able to do. That's a pretty big deal. This is not the under 20s. This is the senior team. What did you take away from that experience?
It was a new experience, that I've never been a part of, and so it was just a new experience. So it was something to take in and enjoy and learn from. Is
that something you would like to continue? I mean, you have the relationships good with that El Salvadorian national team. Obviously, your options are still open. And we know you played for the the youth teams for the U.S. and Mexico. But how was those conversations with El Salvador, and how did they rate about what you were able to do for them?
I think they were happy with the way I played, and I think we have a good relationship and we're on the same page, which I think is the most important part. So I think that's what it is. It's a healthy relationship.
Hey Nate, there's a lot of Salvadoreños in LA, man. Sell a lot of Ordaz shirts with that.
Yeah.
Good man. Very good. He's very proud of his roots. And Nate, we're really proud of what you've been able to accomplish, man. And all the best with whatever you're doing it. Just keep on that trajectory, man. You're getting games everywhere.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do.
And just be careful with Paul, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, scary guy.
Nathan Ordaz, really proud of what he's been able to do, and keep tabs of him. A lot of exciting things on the horizon. That's all the time we have for this week's Inside LAFC podcast. We'll be back next week to recap San Jose. We'll take a look at that Open Cup and so much more to look forward to, as LAFC will be back home as they begin May the 11th against the Whitecaps. Until then, until we meet again, so long. Go black and gold.